There you go. How's that? I got to make sure the sun kind of goes behind the trees a little bit there. I call them the Mexican nannies. I'm by the Mexican nanny section in the park. I love the park. Last night I was here and a couple of 25-year-old gals came over and started flirting with me. I know they're operatives, I know they're honeypots, but that's just the way of the future. And today we're pitching Linoleum Blownapart all day. I'm going to do a second one inside the library. I'm here nearly every single day. I have almost everything worked out. When I sit down to write, and by the way, I have it behind a paywall on Kindle, and I just want to thank the person who bought The Big Kiss Off. You put me at number 4,000, and that's number 4,000 with a bullet. I only sold one piece of writing, and that was The Big Kiss Off. You don't get into punk rock, you don't get into alternative culture to actually sell a bunch of stuff. You get into anything that you're into. There's one of these big beetles. Oh, man. They got the big scarab beetles. They fly around. He's one of the big scarabs. You don't get into anything like you're gonna get rich. And this is I don't know. So let's just jump right in. I don't know what's gonna happen in the last park I was at. Of course, my video doesn't look like it's being messed up, but when you go to play it back, that's the one I put audio only. Now the video's all messed up. Hey man, I'm just a guy. I'm doing this while on general relief benefits. That's like being on the dole as a punk rocker in England. That's exactly what it's like. This place where I live, West Hollywood, this is like New York in the 1990s for me. I'm glad I moved to New York in the 1990s, and I don't care that I moved back and everybody, including my wife, were involved in the Cash for Smells op. I think you people are pathetic, and I think what they were trying to do was that they were trying to get me to self-harm. My wife was hoping that I would do that, and when I didn't, they just continued to crush me. And a person who did self-harm around that time, this was exactly in 2017 when David from Majesty Crush self-harmed. So what I'm doing with my songs, when I came back to Detroit in 04, I didn't start the Grievance Committee 2.0. As a matter of fact, everybody had moved on, and people indicated to me that they had no interest in me or anything that I wanted to do. So I kept going, as I always do, and I wrote about a dozen songs for Linoleum Blownapart, the new band that I formed, right? And people were so incensed by this. We went to an open mic. The guy couldn't even say the name, like he didn't even want to say it. There's certain things going on in Detroit that I knew 20 years ago, 20 and 30 years ago. What Jack White is doing, I knew everything 20 years ago. He's going through and he's finding old bands like Majesty Crush, people who are dead. And don't forget, the guy in Death, there was a band called Death. They were a African-American rock and roll band. And it was really funny. I got off the bus over here and Automatic Trigger came on, the recording, right? That's how I said I'm in the Panopticon. It said no loud rock and roll music or drug paraphernalia. Now, it didn't say that. I went from Pico to Santa Monica. It didn't say anything until I was the only one on the bus, and right? So it picks up your device. That's what it does. And that's why it said that. What do I talk about all the time? Rock and roll and paraphernalia. Like I said, I don't think there's anything wrong with smoking some weed and you know, a bong rip and a beer. There's nothing wrong with that. Like, so anyways, everybody knows this. Anyways, I don't want to get too far afield. But there was a band called Death. They were from Detroit. And wow, they had some big resurgence happened. What? After the guy died. Right? And I believe what happened with me, a lot of what happened had to do with an ex-girlfriend. I believe they, in case you guys don't know my backstory before I start getting into the life of Linny, now there's two parallel lives. There's Walter and there's Linny from Linoleum Blownapart. Walter's a filmmaker who lives 40 years before Lionel is born. That's his name, Lionel. They make fun of him because it's the 1980s, and they make fun of him with regard to dancing on the ceiling. But, okay, so that's what Linoleum Blownapart is basically about, but I can go into this deep, interesting minutia, what I hope to do today. But I think a lot of what happened to me has to do with an old girlfriend of mine. And I'm here to tell you, if you're a police officer, most police officers, they're bully jocks. They like going around messing with people. And so if you're a police officer and somebody's mother comes up to you and says, hey, let's harass my daughter's ex-boyfriend, why don't you ask that woman why? What did that guy ever do to you? And in case you guys don't know, they were putting me down. Ever since I was in a punk band, they put my band down. They changed the names of my songs. I'm 57 years old, son. I don't play that. And you know what it led into? It led into some ex-girlfriend running her mouth and her mom running ops. Then police got involved. Then guess what? Then they started calling me Zoolander, name calling me. And then what happened? It led into, oh, this guy murdered somebody. Then, not only that, after that, and I survived all that, right? Don't forget, I'll be going inside I'm outside doing this pitch, and I'm getting massive interference. I don't think people like me telling the truth about what's going on in my life, and I don't appreciate being targeted, especially by some phony ex-girlfriend of mine. You broke up with me. I don't have anything to do with you and your dumb family. And you know, when I was on Facebook, I thought people were friends who worked at Harmony House. I was gravely mistaken. It won't happen again. Trust me. And again, man, you know, I got the whole thing with David from Majesty Crush. It's pretty obvious what happened. This was an op through this right here. This is behavioral malware. If you have the wrong app on your phone, and if you're targeted by these FedRats, so be careful. But what the story of Linoleum Blownapart is a story of Lionel. It starts right away, just right in the garage, right where they're rehearsing. So you have three characters. You have Lionel, he goes all the way to the end. This is a 10-year span, 1987 to 1996. It ends on his birthday, what? The 27th birthday. Will he join the 27 Club? I have part of this written up. It's behind a paywall, okay? And you have Freddie. Freddie's the drummer. Freddie is based on my friend Robert Rebant, who is allegedly dead. I played in bands with this guy, and I played in bands with other people who turned on me. I want to state for the record, you turned on me. You made a mistake. You made a grave error with that. And these people know who they are. And, you know, again, you go through life and, you know, you just can't wrap your mind around people turning on you and all this kind of stuff. But what happened to me is unconscionable. And these people know exactly what was going on, and they were laughing about it. And so it was very hellish for quite a few years. I was suffering incredibly. It's like shock therapy. That's what it is. It's like, you know, that's why they made that stuff illegal. They do it right through this device, right here. So we're going to get into that on another episode. I have tons of notes written up. I talk about my real life, and I talk about what are you talking? You know, things that are happening now. Current events. I meant to say current events. But today we are doing the line of Napoleon's birthday. Yes, happy birthday, Napoleon. Sorry, I had a 10-minute intro without saying happy birthday to Napoleon. This property is based on somebody who gets a Napoleonic complex. This is as old as time. People who have a tendency to be grandiose. And this is what happens to this kid in this band. Now, don't forget, there's three people. There's Lionel, there's Freddie, who is the drummer, and that's how he creates his songs. And like Napoleon, he has the same birthday 200 years later, okay? And like Napoleon, who's working on military strategies, that's what this guy does. Okay, he works on songwriting. He doesn't care about anything else. He cares about his songs. He cares about his music. And while all that's going on, there's all this chaos going on around him. Now, this is that rock and roll chaos, okay? And don't forget, like, I like to digress a little bit to make it interesting, that Marilyn Manson played with Rammstein. Okay, and Marilyn Manson is thick as thieves with Johnny Depp. All three of these guys went on trial around the same time. Okay, so this is organized. You could see all three of these guys who are friends with each other are part of this op. They get attacked at the same time. They have charges brought up against them. They're both of Marilyn Manson and Johnny Depp are musician actors. And I talk about my pitch for Golden Years. It's a television show that Johnny Depp could walk right into. This thing could get started right away. And you could have old rock and rollers, you could have alternative people, because that's the music that I came up listening to. I'm sorry, I don't have the traditional rock and roll look with all the tats and the long hair and all this kind of stuff. I just don't. I'm very working class. I know my type. And I was an actor in the 1990s. And like I said, living here in West Hollywood actually reminds me of 1990s New York, where I moved, and I'm a better man because of it. Trust me. So you just basically have Lionel and Freddie. And that's how he writes his songs. And in the opening scene, Roxy shows up. Roxy is their girlfriend. They call her Roach. And this is based on a real person in my life, of course. And so she shows up to play keyboards like Ray Manzarek. They don't have a bass player. So she says, well, I play keyboards. I could just play the bass part on there. They only play 3 songs. They're in my playlist. One is called Exposed. The song Exposed gets sung to the character Jojo. So obviously with Napoleon, you have Josephine. Okay? And in our world with Linoleum Blownapart, it's going to be Jojo. And that's going to be his girlfriend. Now, his girlfriend, he's going to steal from somebody else in another band, which also happened to me in the Detroit punk rock scene in the 1980s. That's where I came up. That's where I knew, number one, there's no unity. Number two, there's a ton of bands here who could really, really go far if there was just a label to bring us all together. Number three, that was 20 years before Jack White comes in and swoops up and does all this stuff. Don't forget, I played in a punk rock band from Detroit, and I was in a film. I was working in cinema before Eminem, Jack White, and what's his face? Bob the Kid Rock. Okay? All before these guys ever did it. Now, they were in much bigger projects than me. I'm not sitting here saying, oh, you gotta blah, 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 blah. But if you're watching this, please check the NYU archives. I did numerous films for NYU students. My wife was one of them. And again, I'm here to tell you, 30 years, I knew my wife for 30 years. She wanted me dead. She was part of this op, and these are police officers who harass individuals using this. And it's pretty shameful. And there's no going back on that. And I might have to, you know, seek legal representation, and I'll be naming the people that I name right here on this show. That goes back to my old ex-girlfriend in Boston Edison and anywhere else. Anybody else who's involved in this, and it goes to people who worked at Harmony House, and it goes to people who were in my band. So that's it, man. I'm 57 years old. I'm lucky to be here, and I'm supposed to grovel and kiss your feet? No. It doesn't work like that. So I'll be seeking legal representation to have you people handled. Make no mistake about it. And I don't really care how big Facebook is or anything like that. We can always use the Frances Haugen testimony to ensure a possible victory, or at least to get the information out there that this social media is weaponized in ways that people would never believe, and it is inauthentic behavior. That's what I would call it. So, but anyways, we're here to pitch Linoleum Blownapart all day. Yes, on Napoleon's birthday. I know I'm supposed to be a little bit in a better mood. I'm kind of, I don't know. I felt pretty good when I woke up this morning, so I'm just going to think about Napoleon all day today. I'm going to go inside and I'm going to do a second pitch, and I'll probably pitch the Walter portion. But right now we're working on Linny of Linoleum Blownapart. And he's a 17-year-old kid with his buddy in the garage. Okay? And so Roach shows up. She's a punk rock girl. And they start rehearsing. And like I said, while they're rehearsing, down the street, one of the guys from... I should have went over there, but there was people sleeping over there when I started my show. And I don't want to start my show with people sleeping. So, I don't know what you can hear and what you can't, but thank you very much for staying with me. Listen, I'm going to be later on, my second show is going to be inside the library. It's going to be nice and quiet. So, but I have to start the show right here for you guys. We're talking about the Lionel portion of the show. Oh, Jesus. Are you sure you didn't pinch your baby just to like, get rid of this guy? Okay. So... they start in the garage, and there's a funny scene where all the stop sign dialogue comes in, where they're rehearsing in Freddie's garage, and Freddie's mother allows them to rehearse there. Now, this is based on Robert Rebant. You know, the guy who took a selfie with Jack White? Yeah, my friend, Robert Rebant. So... his mom got mad at us one time because we were cussing into the, well, I was cussing into the microphone, and she read us the riot act about how to talk about women, and I shouldn't be talking about women that way, and it was kind of, yeah, it was good. It was something we needed to hear. We were very humble. It was very nice. And, you know, because we were just saying the B word. Back then, that's all we were saying. Oh, she's a this, and she sucks my, you know what I mean? We're just being obnoxious, right? So it's kind of like the Beastie Boys, but we didn't play rap. We played 77 punk. And in case you don't know, my band was on a compilation called US of Oi. Nobody knew what this music was. They were actually calling it United States Oi music. And these were songs that I wrote, and I didn't need anyone in my band to write them. Those people could have been replaced. I'm here to tell you, and I've replaced them in my real life. Okay? They'll never be my friends again, any of them. And like I said, when you come back to me and you want to be around me and you want to talk to me, we're going to have to get into a little bit of fisticuffs first. Okay? That's how I work. That's how I got to come up with something besides that's how I roll. I don't really roll anywhere. My car's sabotaged. I sleep in it. I am homeless, and I do my pitch for Linoleum Blownapart, as well as other properties. Oh boy, I was on La Cienega today. I look up and I saw 6 guys in a truck. Holy smoke. 6 guys in a truck, man. I used to roll like that. I believed what my wife told me, because when somebody tells you something, you have 2 choices. You either believe them and trust them, or you don't, and you have to move on. I didn't have any reason to move on. And if somebody doesn't love you or care about you, they need to tell you that and not behave like a sociopath. And but again, I talk a little bit about this. If you got sociopathic acting people in your family, they're fake. They're fake sociopaths. Why? Because they believe that everything in the world, it's just a form of covering up for their own fear. Okay? So let's get back, got off track. But, you know, when I saw those 6 guys in a truck, I used to do that for my wife and my 2 cats. And they're going around paint rolling cash for smells. This is what I'm trying to tell you. This is still going on to this day. I was on the bus over here, and this guy's like, yeah, he up here in WeHo, talking on the phone and looking at me. Bro, like I said, I get up every day and I do the same thing. I pitch my show, I come on here and I do my show for you guys. It's Napoleon's birthday, and we're in the very first scene of Linoleum Blownapart. And it takes place in Freddy's garage. And in this stop sign dialogue, we find out that Freddy's an alcoholic, and Freddy's mother's an alcoholic, and that Freddy's father died during a DUI, a car accident. And you see this a lot. And it's like, when you have a death that close, all these phonies, especially the ones here on YouTube, they'll tell you, like, that was my wake-up call. Oh, that was my wake-up call. And, you know, when so-and-so died. But let me tell you something. In practicality, in all practicality, hey, he's laughing.
Come on.
He was laughing. He didn't want to come. Aw, come on, buddy. Come on, buddy. Come on, buddy. She's got you.
Okay. Oh,
There
okay.
you go. Yeah, you need help with him? I'd grab him like a football and carry him over there. She's like, come on. So, I have to do that. It helps me get my mind working again. So, you have these holier-than-thou people thinking like, oh, there's a big wake-up call because I had a death in the family. That's not how it works. I think a lot of people know that. I think a lot of people understand that just because, like, my father was a cigarette smoker and a beer drinker, I became him. That's all I was. That's all I cared about, was going to get beer at the end of the night, having a pack of smokes, and cranking up some rock and roll. But luckily, I had enough gumption to continue pushing towards Linoleum Blownapart, which was my second band. And that's this on-demand series is based on. Now, they're in there, they're rehearsing 3 songs. You have Dog's Life. It's just a basic punk. I want to fight, you know, and I want to do this. It's right in my playlist, guys. You could listen to it for yourself. They are demos. I want to make sure that's clear. The production is terrible, as was with Majesty Crush. I think Majesty Crush, obviously the music is there, but listen to the production and people don't know the difference. They must have a tin ear. I don't understand how people don't know the difference, and they don't. I can hear it. Why? Because I spent the age of 8 years old until the time I was 16 studying music. And I did it by buying records and listening to them and enveloping myself into these records because I didn't have a parent that I could identify with. Okay? The other people in my family, they had a parent they could identify with. It was my mother. I could not identify with her. And to this day, there's no going back on that either. I'm a good guy, and I don't need to be qualified by my sisters or by a bunch of lousy, good-for-nothing former friends from Harmony House and my bands. Okay? So this is, obviously, it's based on me. And so Freddy's an alcoholic, and his mother's an alcoholic, but she really loves Roxy. So there's a nice little scene with her and Roxy. Roxy's not named Roxy at this point. Her name is Roach. And they're still in high school. You got to understand that. They are still in high school. So they're 17 years old. They only have 1 more year before they get out. But down the street is one of the guys from the Heretical Sons. Okay? They're called the Heretical Sons. Heretical and then S-U-N-Z. They're just being like punk rock. They're just spelling it like that. And where they got their name from was the very last film that we were talking about in the series about Walter, which is Scorpius XL. I'm going to be writing the treatments for all of these films up. I'm going to be putting them behind a paywall as soon as I can get some. I told you I signed up for general relief, but none of it's here. It's a process that takes a really long time. And I just want to thank everybody here in West Hollywood for helping me. Any help that I've ever gotten, I just want to say thank you very, very much. I really appreciate it. I was always the most talented person in my milieu, and that includes the 1980s Detroit punk rock scene. The most talented out of anybody there. I'll stand by that, and I'll fight for it, physically fight for it, and prove it, however I can. There is no doubt. I was doing things, like I said, before any of these people. Before the film 8 Mile. I grew up on 6 Mile, guys. Okay? And you can see with Majesty Crush, they had no problem murdering. And I'm not talking about the cops. I'm just saying that's the result that happened. I don't care about the details of the case. I'm not here to do an expose about the case. Maybe I will one day. I don't really care at this moment in time. I'm trying to get work, and I'm trying to pitch the greatest idea for a television series that has ever trolled into town. What was I going to say? I was going to say something else. I got to say, that's how I roll. Like, I'm like yelling at the camera. I'm like, that's how I roll. Ugh. I sound like an idiot. Anyways, that's how I troll. So, this is the big scene, and down the street, there's a guy from the Heretical Sons, and he's working on his car. And he hears the band. They're not called Linoleum Blownapart at this point. They're called Urban Upset, which is the same band name that me and Bob had, that I got from Steve Nishelke. Okay? And Steve Nishelke was the first punk rocker in my neighborhood. He's the one who gave me a tape. And then when I moved back to Michigan in the 04 era, I found out he OD'd. It's like he hadn't called my mom. I didn't know how to get a hold of him. He used to call my mom because his mother passed away when he was a child. He loved my mother. I appreciate and love my mother too, but whatever. And so when he did, I remember that year I kicked some guy in the jaw at Starbucks. Sorry, Starbucks. Oops. Yeah, I did. I remember I did that year, and I had to surrender myself. I feel really bad about it, but I know the motivation behind it. And I think I did the same thing passive-aggressively when my father passed away too. I think I acted out. I started becoming more nihilistic instead of dealing with it like an adult. Oh, well, like I said, I'm not going to sit here and make more excuses than a homie going to jail. I don't really care. I don't owe anybody an apology. Why? Because I don't care about any ex-girlfriends or their skank mothers. I don't care about any old friends. And I already apologized to Yolanda profusely. So you can go around painting cash for smells all you want. You didn't cause me any consternation because I was living like a true outlaw. You better know that's right. So we're still in the garage, and the guy, Sick Mick, from the Heretical Sons, who are the biggest punk rock band in the local scene, he hears them rehearsing. Why? Because he took his car to somebody's house. He doesn't live there. Freddie lives there. He took his car to his buddy's house. That's what they used to do in Detroit. That's where I came up. That's why I can't understand why my 2012 Dodge Avenger, the battery, you have to take the quarter panel off to change the battery. Honest to God. Back in my day, I had a Montego MX, and you could lean right in. I remember I worked on my car, and I messed something up one time, man. Oh, it was the worst feeling in the world. Oh, it was just a gasket, but oh, man. I was so angry. Anyway, so, right, back then we used to buy cars for $200 and $300, and if it broke down, you just leave it on the side of the road. I know I did one time. My car caught on fire one time. I just left it there. Had it towed away and never considered it again, and just went and got something else. I think it was right before I moved to New York City. I'm glad that I did. I'm glad my girlfriend broke up with me. I apologize for ever thinking that we were friends. We are not friends. I'm not friends with anybody from Harmony House anymore. making sure you know that. These people are trash. They all knew, and you're going to get busted. Because I've been in jail. I don't care about jail. I'm not interested in sending somebody to jail, but you're not going to torture me using this device. You're not going to do it and get away with it. My wife was involved with it, and I think a lot of other people were involved with it too. That's how they torture an individual, and they can get you to surrender. You become paranoid, and they can also make you bark at the moon. That's what my wife used to do, and that's probably the highest setting. Absolutely. It's like going through electronic shock for years, and I believe there's probably permanent damage. So, hey, good luck going forward in the future. In case you don't know, I lied to my wife, and I told her I hired a lawyer, and that's when they cranked the algos the highest, and that's how I busted him. That's how I busted her, and she was doing it the entire time. I called my sister. I was screaming and yelling. I'm like, something's happening. I don't know what it is. My wife's just sitting there going, eh. She's like laughing at me. Yeah. Classy broad. Classy broad. And when I went back to Detroit, my sisters and mothers sided with her. And they knew they would. Why? Because they're pamphlet people. They actually believe, these obsequious Philistines, they believe this narrative. And that's why they were convinced that I was going to self-harm. And when I didn't, I made it all the way from Cash for Smells in New York City. Actually, before that. From Gasoline Alley on a fake shoot where they're talking about an asp and extending baton. Yeah. We're going to see about you too. And this was an operation between Ohio and Michigan. So this is interstate. Okay. So you know they're Fed rats. There you go. Right? There is no local jurisdiction anymore. They go national. Everybody goes national now. And don't forget, these quote-unquote mobsters and gangsters, they created the FBI. The FBI was created because of them. You understand? So you have the media, you have these morons, and then you have the gov, the law enforcement, and they all work together. And what did they do? They increased the power of the government. And now look where we're at. Look where we're at. That's why I said in the other episode, the Constitution is a joke. The Constitution itself is a psyop, and everybody believes it. They go around believing it. Why? Because then they have something to fight for. And don't forget, if you're anti-gov, what are you going to do about it? Get mad at the person at the DMV? The government doesn't exist. We have something called synarchy. We're part of it. Right? And that's these same operators expected me to strap on a beret and change my name to Shay. Why? Because it started with this narrative that I was Zoolander. Do you guys see where this led? Some skank back in Boston Edison breaks up with me. I move to New York. I get LARPed by a police officer. Then everybody in Boston Edison starts calling me Zoolander. It lands me in Florida, where they're running Q-ops. I don't know what's happening. My brain is fried. My wife is laughing about it. And another skank from Boston Edison is calling me on the phone, running her mouth and drinking wine. We're going to see about you. I've named these people in episodes before, so please stay tuned. I always kind of go down into my real life. Why? Because it's a sight more interesting than most. All hail the great Napoleon. That's right. In my personal opinion, I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but I don't know if Ridley Scott's going to be able to pull off Napoleon. I don't know. There's something about it. You know what I mean? It's like, it's personal with me. Now, don't forget, this whole thing started, it was supposed to be the ghost of Stanley Kubrick. This is how Linoleum Blownapart started. It didn't have any of my songs in it, but I was going to use music in this because it's going to be like the Phantom of the Paradise meets the ghost of Stanley Kubrick. Okay? It was going to be about Napoleon. Okay? And we know that Stanley Kubrick was never able to make Napoleon. So we have a substitute for that. And I created this narrative for Linoleum Blownapart, and we're literally only on the first scene. I do apologize for digressing. I do apologize. But I am still, it's not emotional pain. It was physical pain, and it was being done by my wife. And you're going to pay. I'm going to see to it that you all pay. That's great. And the best part is, I don't care about money. That's the best part. I don't care about money. And that should be the scariest part for these people. Because I know it had to do with this former girlfriend of mine in Boston Edison. I know it. Why? Because I'm tapped into what's known as the Eggyverse. And what's the Eggyverse? Is when you can utilize your device. You can use this cognitive therapy. You tap into your own subconscious. You can tap into the collective unconscious. So I have Neuralink beat by a mile. I'm already ahead of the game with Neuralink. Okay? I'm already ahead of the game. That's the best part. So where are we at in our story? We are with Freddie, Lionel, and Roach in Freddie's garage. And Freddie's mother comes in, of course. She tells him, you know, go easy on the beer drinking. She doesn't want him drinking too much beer. But Freddie's already drinking. They're all drinking. But they're 17 years old, and she's one of these mothers who says, well, I'd rather have you do it here than do it out there. I think that's very smart. Kids are going to sneak it anyway. I don't believe in, like, hitting kids and threatening people to change their behavior. But guess what? Look what we have. Behavior modification right here now. Wow. I thought we were moving past all that, but apparently not. I don't know. You can ask the woman I married in Queens, New York, all about it. She could tell you. So they're in the garage, and the guy from Heretical Sons is down the street. Now, he doesn't live there, right? But he says, hey, man, hey, who's that band down the street? And he says, yeah, that's the kid down the street. They're in Urban Upset. And so they're like, hey, we got a show on Saturday. He's like, why don't you go tell him that, you know, that we'll put him on the bill. And so they're in high school, so they've never done a show before. They're just playing. And or we can have them do like some kind of failed thing where it was a talent show at school and they get laughed at. You know what I mean? Because punk rock is new. You got to understand that. Nobody really was understanding it. Even though it's 1987, but, you know, you could kind of play with these themes, right? So you have the guy, he shows up, knocks on the door with Freddie. I have some dialogue worked out there. And so they answer the door, and he's like, hey, you guys got a show. They're like, we have a show. What are you talking about? We have a show. And he's like, yeah, the guy from Heretical Sun said you're playing on Saturday. It's just that, like that, right? You're playing on Saturday. Like, you're already on the bill. And so Roach has a couple of great lines because one of the bands dropped out. So it's the Heretical Sons, The Filth, and Urban Upset. Now, don't forget, The Filth is a band that I was in as well. We were called The Filth because there was another band called The Fury. So I wanted to do a show with them called we called The Filth and The Fury because that was a headline for the Sex Pistols. And don't forget, all that music was passé. That was all almost a decade old. By the time 1987, punk rock was a decade old already. And so we were just starting to play this music. We were just starting to get into it. And I was just starting to become a songwriter. And those songs are evident under the Linoleum Blownapart playlist. Now, don't forget, they're getting ready to do their first show. And at their first show, they're doing it at an abandoned building. So this abandoned building has bootleg electricity. And so you can see the twisted pair. It's going to be 3 or 4 or 5 extension cords all wrapped up together, leaving the abandoned building, and each one has a 12 pronger on there, okay? And it leaves the building, runs down through the lot, the empty lot, across the street, and into a neighboring building, right? So this guy who's running the show is a guy named Max. Okay, Max is a guy like me. But he's like in his 30s, Everybody at the show is in their teens and 20s. It's an all ages show, and it's at Max's Club, and it's a bootleg club. Why? Because you're going to get that all in the dialogue. You have to have the dialogue, and the dialogue's going to be about the fact that he saw that there was a market for this music. He doesn't know what it is. He's not a punk rocker or anything like that, but he saw that these kids were renting out a hall. What did I tell you about Carrie, who had to do 30 years in the joint, and the Greystone, where my Uncle Paulie played in his doo-wop band? Okay, I was with him at a veterans hall, and we had to, and I saw him break out that shotgun. He used it, and we had to rent a veterans hall to have play punk rock shows, and the people in the neighborhood were just like, who are you? Right? So he sees this, but this is the background story, okay? It creates the dialogue for where you see him, and he has the whole thing set up. I crunched the numbers on it. He goes out, and he gets like 3 kegs. Each 10-ounce beer glass is $1 each. So he's actually making $125 off of each keg. He can buy the keg for whatever, 130, what, you know what I mean? You work out the number of ounces in the keg, and he's making $125 off each one. He tells the guy, you know, who's the bartender, he's like, you get the tips. They got a big tip jar. You get the tips, and you got all the beer you can drink. He doesn't pay anybody. That's the best part. He makes it kind of volunteer, and the kids want to do it. The kids want to help. Why? Because that's what kids do. You want to get involved in a project. And when I was involved in the 1980s punk rock scene in Detroit, I thought I was part of this. But they changed the names of my songs. They changed, the names of my songs. They put the wrong bands that we were playing with in the Metro Times on purpose. And then that led all the way to 2017, where they used my likeness in the murder of Ron Beauty. And it's all made up. It's all fake, just like them. Oh, yeah. You better know that's right. So this is my real life. This is what I'm talking about. I always digress in my real life. I can't believe the gall of these people. And why do they do it? Because they know that they can get away with it. That's why they do it. They know that it's never going to be investigated. Because they're in the good old boys club, like I said. They'll murder or have David from Majesty Crush murdered. But any of those guys, they get the mother's milk. They're still suckling the teat of the mother's milk. Absolutely. I stand by everything that I said. And the people are welcome to come on my show, and if they want redemption, they're so dumb they don't even know what it means. Everybody accepts what's handed to them. Why do you think they killed MLK? They killed MLK because he was the only one saying, you don't go by color. You don't go by color, you go by the content of a person's character. And we all knew that in the 1980s. Why did they kill him? Look at what they're doing today. Now you go by color. And it's pretty shameful that corporations are hiding behind black-owned businesses and LGBT community, putting them up like in the Dead Zone, like the Martin Sheen character holding up a baby to shield himself. This is what corporations are doing, and it's pretty shameful that people who hate corporations, what they're doing, are actually targeting the individuals that are being used. They're targeting people, black-owned businesses. They're calling it affirmative action hires, and they're targeting the LGBT community when they're really angry at the corporations, and they don't even know how to separate this. Oh, I'm alt-white. I guess that's what I'm supposed to do. Everybody else is doing it. Right? So they're just adopting this, and they're not having cogent conversations about it. The only conversations they're having are counterpoint. I mean, it's rather silly. That's why I talk about using your discernment. You have to take two sources, and you combine them, and you come up with a third hypothesis. And people aren't doing that. Why? Because it's going to give you the answer right here. Here's the answer. Here's the answer. How is it you watch Joe Rogan? I don't mean to call out shows, but whatever. I'm a guy. I call out Timcast, Joe Rogan, Alex Stein is the new Alex Jones, by the way. In case you don't know that, get a clue. He's down in Texas and everything. There you go. But how is it that I'm able to understand what the Google is? That the Google is a bastardization of telling you that this is weaponized. I figured that out. And I'm not in the military. I don't have an electronics degree. I don't have anything like that. And I don't go around shooting my mouth out and like some braggart that I know what I'm talking about. I'm not Monty. You guys know Monty? I know Monty. He has a YouTube channel. Right? He doesn't talk about the Google. I do. That means it's weaponized. It's right in everybody's face. And a lot of times that's where we'll put it, right in your face. So if you want to send some honey pots around me, that's cool. One of them was really hot. That's fine. I like 25-year-old girls teasing me. That's pretty hot. So and if you want to make fun of LGBT people, that's your business, man. Because there's somebody like that in your own family. And again, social media has you going on your device, and you're only going to 4 sites. And these sites are weaponized, and they are fed rats. And the main people who are going around calling people snitches, they actually snitch. That's how they keep alive. That's how they operate, right? I never cared. Why? Because I was busy getting in my million words. I was busy trying to put food in my belly. And I still am to this very day. Where we're at in our story is the kids get a show. And they have to show up. Boom, we're right into it. This is the second and third scenes here. We're at the first show right away, okay? And so at the first show, they have a bunch of TV screens. Now I remember this from a gig I did with a gig I went to with a band called The Trial, okay, in Detroit. There was the Mystery Girls, there was the Bat Boys, there were the Bats, there was The Trial. There were all these bands going on. There was Gargoyle Socks. I'm sorry if there's a little bit too much wind. I apologize. I gotta stop doing that. Who cares? Okay, these were all the bands that were going on in Detroit, and we were part of that scene. And later on, just like David from Majesty Crush, they thought they could kill me. And they tried to. And I know the people involved. Pathetic. I call them out every show. You can look into them yourself. I'll dox myself. How about that? Gordon Douglas Eisen. That's my name. I'll dox myself. You can see who I was married to in Queens, New York. You could see who was in my bands. Oh yeah. So I think it's I proved with my own life that skinheads and the black gangs both work with the police department. And I proved racism is fake. It's selective. Absolutely. Selective outrage. That's what they call it. Selective outrage. Yay! It's Napoleon's birthday. I'm doing a full pitch today. Sorry. I got every right to use the park too, man. I'm going to do my pitch right here. And then I'm going to go into the library and I'm going to continue the pitch. Right now, we're with the band. And they show up to the show. They're using bootleg electricity. And who's doing it? A guy named Max. And who's Max? Max is like Michael Imperioli from The Sopranos, but his dad is older. His dad would be the Jewish guy who had the record label. I'm just talking about archetypes here, guys. So if I say the wrong thing and somebody wants to sue the production, that's your problem. This is all based on my life. His name's Max. And his dad's name is Dino, just like the guy I used to work for, Dino Carreri, okay? At the pizzeria, I saw him pistol whip a guy. It was great. It was one of the greatest moments of my life, and I really have a lot of respect for that. He also got the shit kicked out of him, too, by his own family. He was running an illegal gambling operation. That's how I come up. So in case you wanted to know why I identify more with Sopranos than The Wire, you know, that's your racial divide. I can't help what I'm attracted to. And apparently a lot of people can't help projecting things onto others out of ignorance. When I play music, oi punk bleeds out of me. Cut me and find out, son. Stain your blade on me. Stain your blade on me. Check out Coriolanus, guys. It came out in 2010. I talk about this film. I talk about Shakespeare. There's a lot of things that are Shakespearean. This is inauthentic behavior creation right here. And I'm not going to stop talking about that unless I have to sign an NDA. Or until my lawsuit goes through. And I'll be talking to lawyers who are part of this community. You better know that's right. You're not getting away with it. You're not getting away with using that. And I know everybody who used it. I know everybody who used it. And they can all be tracked and traced. They can all be found. Don't forget, it was called Trap and Trace. It wasn't called Track and Trace. Everybody knows Track and Trace now. It was called Trap, T-R-A-P, and Trace. That's what it was called. So, and that you can look it up on a .gov document. Okay? I can do a lot of stuff on my show, guys. I'm going to be doing StreamYard. Right? I'm going to be doing StreamYard. And when it comes to my case and the Cash for Smells phony crew, that includes my wife, I'll be naming names. Right? I'll be naming names. And I already have right on my show. So that's why I said I don't have anything to worry about. You can send as many operatives as you want. Obviously, if you were going to do something, you would have done it a long time ago. So as we inch forward, like I'm saying, I want to get a go on this property. Okay? It's called Linoleum Blownapart. It's the most original property out there. We already started this. It's actually behind a paywall on Kindle. And they're at their first show. And so they play Collision Course. You can take a look at my playlist under Linoleum Blownapart. You'll see a song called Collision Course. And Collision Course has... It has keyboards. It has like an organ. So it's actually going to sound a lot more like the second version of The Damned. Right? The... you know what I mean? After the Black Album. It's going to be sounding like that. You got me driving up a wall. Because don't forget, Roach, aka Roxy, they don't play the bass, she plays the keyboards. So they're at the show and they have all these television screens and they're playing Scorpius XL. Why? Because they have it on a VHS tape and the band Heretical Sons got their name from Walter's fifth film, Scorpius XL. That's where they got their band from. It's from something that's said inside the film. It's when this character, after dies, on the night before the launch, in the film, Scorpius XL, the pilot dies. And they have to go get his backup pilot. And they bring him. And they have to just do a quick little, hey, you're going on, you know, do you remember everything? Yeah. And right at the end, he gets afraid. And he says, how can we go to another sun when, you know, he's trying to work his way around the Bible like we all do. When we read the Bible, we're like, how can we have this academic notion when it doesn't match what's written here, right? Like I said, a simulation matches the scribes in the Holy King James now, doesn't it? But certainly not that we're mistakes and that we're animals. I got a book called Two-Legged Animal. The only bit of my writing that somebody bought was The Big Kiss Off. Thank you. Thank you. Happy birthday, Napoleon. I'm doing my big Napoleon birthday pitch for Linoleum Blownapart. And the band go on, and they're the first band, obviously. And while they're playing, Scorpius XL is playing on these television sets that everybody brought in this small club with no electricity. And Max is there. And so when it comes time for their second song, whatever song, it's called Exposed. You said it's a waste of time, that you would never confine yourself to one place And I looked at you right in the face and I laughed. Ha ha ha. As we slid down in the backseat of my car. Look at that. Look, can you guys see this? You guys see it? That's hair sticking up because of the song. That's hair sticking up on my arm because of what I just sang. And it's a little cold. Got a little prints. It is. I felt it as soon as I was singing it, as soon as I heard the hook. If music doesn't make the hair stand up on your arm, and this is the kind of music that will never do that to you, you shouldn't be involved in this project. Get lost. Okay? I'm not Lee Sobel. I'm not going to sit here and say, well, my girlfriend's got to be in the project, or no. That was the dumbest move that guy ever made. He turned down a producer of his project because they didn't want to use his girlfriend. I'd go home and say, honey, sorry, you can't be used in this project. I'll write you a small scene. And if she really loved you, she'd be like, okay, honey, you get your project made. That's how it works. You understand? That's how it works. So, it's great being around families. It's great being around kids. Why? Because I felt cheated. I felt cheated, and I kept going back to my family over and over the years. From now on, there is no backseas. I die in the streets, and I die with this project, Linoleum Blown Apart. That's right. I have no problem saying that. It's the greatest idea to ever troll into town. It's me. Oh, boy. And right now, they're at their first show, and we meet Max, the character. And Max's father, he's like Hiram Abiff. He is the beastard. I don't want to cuss. He's the bastard son. Bastard in a basket. Remember that scene? Oh, I could digress all day. I love, what's his name? I can't remember his name. There Will Be Blood director, Paul Thomas Anderson, Maya Rudolph's husband. I love that guy. If you want to see what my life is like, take a look at Punch Drunk Love. Okay? Take a look at this film. The guy has 5 sisters, and he can't even get a word in edgewise. That's how I grew up. That's how I grew up. And all these guys knew how to do was project LGBT and project stuff about people's race and stuff like that, man. Look who died in Detroit. A guy from Death, the band Death, had to die before anyone gave him any respect. That's what they were doing in Waiting for Me, and they were waiting for pieces of trash like Disconnected Records to reap the benefits. No, 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 no. No, 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 no. You're busted, dude. You're a joke. And so is the music on your label. The music is my music. I wrote the songs. I got a little story for you because I got some serious cheese on my grits right about now. Here's a story for you. There is no more friendship with the guys in my band who I told them what to do, and they did it like good little boys that they are. So I'm in a band with a guy who's the biggest Ramones fan, allegedly. I'm in a band with a guy who's the biggest Ramones fan ever. That's all that ever comes out of his mouth and probably went in it. Ramones this, Ramones that, Ramones this, Ramones that. I'm living in Las Vegas. I'm actually homeless for quite a while. I write about it in my book, Two-Legged Animal. Check it out, please and thank you. I've known this guy for 30 years. I play a show with Marky Ramone. It was pretty awesome. It was really great. It was a lot of fun. Did this guy once ever ask me about it? It's so interesting how I could play a show with a guy from a band that this guy worships, and he never asked me once about it. Wow. Interesting. And then I find out that his wife is thick as thieves with a guy who wrote an article using my likeness in the murder of somebody who was at our show. Boy, must be a good old boys club, and I ain't in it, boy. I am telling you this. When we were younger, we were making fun of these guys, and they all turned into them. I had another buddy of mine. I can get into this all day, bro. I'm supposed to be doing my pitch, yay! I'm only on the second scene of Linoleum Blown Apart, the band. I know exactly what happens with this band. They go and they do this show. And when he's playing the song for JoJo, well, when he's playing the song Exposed that I wrote for a woman named Bo Mitchell, I'm sorry, I don't mean to dox people. I'm sorry. But I dated her for a minute. It was about, she was married and like, you know, there was all these other guys clamoring to be with her. And I believe she probably, you know, utilized her womanhood. Anyway, so he sings this song, and that's right when JoJo comes in. So you have to have that when they meet, you know, their eyes meet. You have to have this scene. It's very romantic. I don't care who you are. It's a romantic scene. Everybody has that. When the girl you're looking at, or the guy, or whomever, you catch their eye. And you catch each other's eye, and you know in that moment that you have a crush on each other. It's very innocent, it's very beautiful, but in our story, it's going to turn very gritty and very deadly. Kind of like my real life, eh? But I guess you forgot to finish the job. Pew, pew. Phonies. So, I told you guys right before I moved out here, the same guy who I went to a drug house with to fetch somebody, a member of somebody's kin who's allegedly now dead, I went right there, and I walked right in, and I was going to kidnap that person out of there. I was going to carry them out, which would have been a kidnapping charge, and I was willing to do that. The guy named Daryl Maniac, he's dead. I was willing to do that. You know what the same guy did? The same guy, a decade later, tries to have me arrested for coke in Warren with the Warren Tattoo Crew. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Everything I say is true and real. And that's not why I started my show. I started my show a long time ago, but I was working out what I'm going to do. And it takes a long time. But when I started working on Linoleum Blownapart, boom, it just started falling into place. I told you it started as a musical about the ghost of Stanley Kubrick. And I thought, well, now I have to get the permission. And I was like, you know what? I'm a pretty smart, handy, and capable guy, despite what my family and my former friends think and say. I'm going to create these films myself. And I did. The story is very reminiscent to 4 Rooms, where we're going to get 7 different directors to direct each one of Walter's films. But we're not talking about Walter. We're talking about the Cutaway Band, or the Cutaways narrative, which is of Lionel in the punk rock band. This is epic. This is incredible. This is the stuff that the Wachowskis foam at the mouth over. I would love to get the Tom Twyker, the Wachowskis involved. I would love it. Paul Thomas Anderson, I would love it. And by the way, I'm a Rentals man. I'm a Rentals man. Weezer is okay, but I prefer the Rentals. Friends of P, got them right on my playlist. Okay? My ride's here. Shut up. It's funny. It's corny. It's a single dad joke. It's great. I don't have any children, and I don't have any responsibilities. And I'm taking advantage of it. I'm taking full advantage of it. I'm on the dole, just like English punk rockers. Okay? I know a little bit about a lot of things. And right now, I'm pitching the musical portion of Linoleum Blownapart, which is going to be an on-demand series that you will watch get made. It's the greatest idea, like I said, since the Wachowskis. I would love to have the Wachowskis involved in this. I am not prejudiced against anybody. And what happens is a lot of people mix up somebody telling a joke with being, quote-unquote, a bigot. Okay? I don't need to take any oath. And I abjure from any oath that I have taken previous to me becoming a citizen of California. I abjure any oath, formally and officially. Especially the one to the slope-shouldered manatee of a fuddy-duddy. Trash skank. My name's Gordon Douglas Ice, and please do a FOIA request on my name. It's only $25. I'm not asking you for money. I'm asking you to get involved in my show. That's what this is about. And I'm pitching, yes, on Napoleon's birthday, the great Napoleon. We're pitching Linoleum Blownapart. I'm doing the musical portion. Lionel just played Exposed. The song is available in my set list under Linoleum Blownapart. Listen to the song Exposed. And that's what he's playing. And he looks up and he sees her. Okay? My versions are demos. Okay? We're going to get a band to play it. And if the actors aren't musicians and they can't play, then we'll just hire, right? We'll hire the Briefs or somebody like him. I love the Briefs. They're a great band. They're right here in California. Plenty of punk bands here in California could play the band, but then have the actors lip sync or whatever you would call it now. I don't know what you call it. I have no problem with that. I have no problem with changing this property any which way you want to do it in order to get it made. I'm willing to make any compromise. Ready to get this thing made. That's right. Ring the bell, kid. Yeah. Ringing the bell. Ringing the bell. So right now, the band is playing at a show. And that's the same thing that happened with me and Bob. We were playing at a place called The Asylum. And that's the name of this place. And it's being run by Max. And Max is the son of a gangster. And he is the Hiram Abiff of that gangster. Okay? And his siblings are eventually going to get pretty angry because they're about 10 to 15 years older than Max. Max was born from another mother. And their father was having an affair. And it caused their mother to commit suicide, and she's done. Right? And they hold that against Max. And that's a great dynamic to have. So you have two brothers and a sister. You know, it's kind of like Janice showing up in Tony's life in The Sopranos. Gee, I'm sorry. Am I part Southern African? Am I supposed to use the wire? Sorry, man. Sorry, I have to go what's right here in my heart. How about that? Bunch of phonies. Jesus, man. Luckily, in this new generation, they listen to everything. They listen to rap. They listen to punk rock. They listen to all kinds of crazy stuff. But let me tell you something. This audience for this show is going to be from boomers to millennials, guys. From boomers to millennials. Who's watching the Stranger Things? I call it the Internet of Stranger Things. It's based on the notion of the Internet of Things. And egregore, that's right, a monster that lives inside your device. We all know that that monster is AI. And AI is behavioral AI. And I figured this out right on the show. And what's the key to weaponization? The Google. Not Google. The Google. Okay? I figured this out. And I don't have an electrical engineering degree. And I don't understand why more people aren't talking about this. All of this is provable and real, and I will be able to prove it for you. But right now, we're talking about their very first show. And he plays this song, and he looks at JoJo. JoJo is the girlfriend of Sick Mick. This is all in my property. It's available for sale behind a paywall. She's the girlfriend of Sick Mick in the Heretical Sons, the biggest band going on. So they catch each other's eye. And this happened to me in real life. It was a girl named Renee. She was dating somebody in another band. She was very fast and loose, just like Yolanda, the ecstasy dealer here in New York. And this is what guys fall for. And this is going into the property One Bad Pork Chop too as well. Okay. We fall for it. And women utilize their sexuality. And Roxy, her name is Roach, but she is going to be utilizing her sexuality too. And again, that's why they have these people, you know, talking about, you know, calling women names. Well, a lot of women begin to utilize their bodies in order to manipulate men. Like I said, I had somebody broke up with me and then their mother brings a police officer to LARP me. This is what these guys are. They're a bunch of dumb jocks. That's who they behave like. Just like the skins at the show who took their cue from the Geraldo show. Oh my God. Are we shaving our heads today? Yeah. Yeah. And in case you guys don't know, The Offspring, they're a pretty big band who came out of the same type of music that we were playing. They had a problem with skins at their show. So it's gone on for quite some time. I'm not really into writing that portion of that. If one of the producers wants to put all that kind of stuff in here into this show, that's up to them. We'll write scenes like that. We'll add scenes. I'll add scenes. I'll take away scenes. I'm completely open and flexible. I have no problem. I have no problem adding scenes, adding characters, as long as it makes sense. As long as we can justify it. I'm not Lee Sobel. I'm not going to turn down an offer to have my stuff produced because I can't use my girlfriend. And guess what? Did he marry her? No. They're broken up. They're long broken up. What the what? And then it took him a decade to make Rockabilly Vampires. Hey, man. That's your business, pal. That's your business. I'm not here to get wrapped up into anything that has to do with politics. I'm not into getting wrapped up into any cultural shield that's now being held up by corporations that's causing people to hate other people instead of being angry at the corporation who's using these people as a shield. And that's the perfect term for it. And that's how I feel about it. We're literally I'm over an hour. And we're literally only into the first 2 scenes of Linoleum Blownapart. I have so much more worked out. I'd like to vacillate through time, but making it kind of obvious that it's like, yeah, okay, this is that character older. Like I said, we don't have to actually have the actors be musicians. We can have them faking it as long as we have the stuff recorded already. And that's the order of things. You would make the 7 films of Walter. Then you can shoot the series about the punk rock kids and Walter's life simultaneous. And while the year that the films are being made, you would get the music together. You would get the band together. Hey, look, listen, the actors aren't going to be able to do this. Let's hire the Briefs or any other group of band. I can name a million bands who could play these songs. You understand? And if the band has to fake it, they have to fake it. The you understand the guys who are playing the characters. It's a pretty easy thing, narrative. It only takes place over 10 years. And what happens at the show? The Heretical Sons come up on stage. I have 2 songs ready to go for them. They do Ludovico technique because that's more their style. And then they do another one. I think Tread on You. So those 2 songs go to the Heretical Sons. So those 2 songs, the band Linoleum Blownapart aren't even going to play. This is another giveaway that I'm giving you guys. You had episode after episode, you could have extracted every time I talked about Linoleum Blownapart, you could have extracted information about that. And you could have kind of pieced it together. And that's what I give you on every single show. I give you a little bit more information about my property, Linoleum Blownapart. Sorry, I gotta look spiffy. It's Napoleon's birthday, that's right. It's Napoleon's birthday episode. And I have every right to be in this park. I am a citizen of California. And I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to be away from my family. And I'm happy to tell you guys all about these pieces of trash rats who I thought were my friends on Facebook, and I was gravely, sadly mistaken. These are guys who are in my band, and there is no friendship anymore. And even after a fist fight, I don't know that we're going to be friends after that. It's just really sad. I understand ambivalence, but you took it too far. That was behavioral malware, and I proved that skinheads and blacks actually work together, and the hub to that is the police department. I prove it every single show. I prove it with my own life. They're all rats. That's what they are. So any of this cliche stuff that they want to tell you about this, that, and the other thing, no. No, 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 no. It's all fake, it's all a lie, and it's all writ large right here. This is the evidence right here. This is the evidence. And in 2010, I was talking about, hey, who owns your emails? And we know now, everybody owns your emails. A cash for smells? You're busted. I love it. I love it so much. That's my real life. It's far more interesting than most, and that's what I can bring to this project. I got the songs, I got the narrative, I have it partially written out already. It's based on my real life. There is no lawsuits. You could say it's based on Duff McKagan's life. You could say it's based on Kurt Cobain's life. You could pick anybody who was in a punk band, and then all of a sudden, you could say it's based on David Grohl's life, right? I mean, if you really wanted to, and that's why I talk about this lawsuit with John Lennon. I talk about all that kind of stuff. And don't forget, Majesty Crush, they used to be in a band called Spawn Ranch. There's a Manson connection right there. That was around the time of Marilyn Manson. Guys, there was a band in Detroit called Spawn Ranch before Marilyn Manson. A decade almost before Marilyn Manson. That's Bob Madigan. He ended up dying. He drank himself to death. A lot of people are dead, guys. A lot of people are dead, guys. Yeah. A lot of people pass away. That's why I don't have any respect for my old crew. You ain't my crew, man. I was my own person. I had to go out into the world. And I had everything against me. Like I said, before Jack White, before Eminem, and before Kid Rock, I was a guy who played music who got into acting. And I did that because of Joe Strummer and Iggy Pop. That's why. This same friend of mine who's supposed to be this big Ramones fan never once asked me about Marky Ramone. He was the one who told me about Jim Jarmusch. I got to talk to Jim Jarmusch, and I got to actually see Rocket's Red Glare walking down the street. Do you think he once asked me about that? No. They set up an LGBT person at Tiger Stadium to harass me. This is what these guys think are funny. And that puts them both together with my former girlfriend's mother doing the same thing in New York. And this, I prove to you that that's what police officers do. They harass individuals. They call their cousin Bubba up on the phone, and he comes up and harasses them. Why? Because they did it again in St. Clair Shores. And I wasn't afraid to catch a case then. Because I wanted to see, like, hey, where's my mom and my sister going to do? They backed the police. The corrupt police. That's my real life. You can look into it for yourself. A FOIA request only costs $25. You can catch the Fed rats who have been up my keister for years. I have no respect for anybody. Respect is earned, guys. I'm here to make new friends. I'm here to work on my project. I can change anything in this project as long as it makes sense. You can't just change something for the sake of changing it. I'm not going to get mad at an individual when I'm really mad at a corporation. The government doesn't exist. You can't target anyone in the government. Why? Because it's synarchy. We are the government. You can't strap on a beret and change your name to Shay. That's for children who believe the narrative that social media delivers to them. Here you go. Here's your cherry-picking fallacy right here. Hey, there it is. It's prepackaged. Oh, yeah. Why do you think I'm here to be the most creative person that I can be? Why? Because I always was. I was more creative than anybody. And don't forget, if you're the Ramones' biggest fan, then you would know that Tommy Ramone still worked with the Ramones. This guy that I'm talking about, this human beer fart from my band, he does graphics. He did graphics, and he's hanging out thick as thieves with a guy who had a record label called Scooch Pooch. Look into it for yourself. Find these people. Ask them, hey, what's Gordon talking about? See what they say. See if they come on my show. I'm developing the Grievance Gordy show right here. I'm also developing the properties, Linoleum Blownapart, and Golden Years. Golden Years is all but ready to go. They said that they can do this animation like that. All you have to do is call in all these rock stars, have them come into the studio, tell their most wildest stories, 2 or 3 stories. That's it, you're out. It takes less than an afternoon. You can have 10 guys per day almost. Then you take the best of those and you animate them. You understand? Then, I'm talking about golden years, and then you have your cutaways during the show. What's the show? Johnny Depp is ready to go. He's ready to fall right into this place. Who could be his best friend? Alice Cooper. Sorry. Alice Cooper. I get passionate. About this stuff. Oh, yeah. These guys are still doing it. Joe Perry. Then you all have the music. I'm talking about golden years, guys. Why? Because I'm writing Linoleum Blownapart. Golden years is ready to go. All you need is the Bowie song. And then what happens? When somebody drops by and they do a remake of one of their songs, this could include guys from Rammstein, 9 Inch Nails, Marilyn Manson, all the way down to classic rock. People like Neil Young stopping by. This is what I'm talking about. Can you imagine this? Everybody would be watching this show. It would be hilarious. And then you would have an uptick because they would play one of their hits. You'd have an uptick on Spotify as to people buying this song again. Hey, I remember that song. Hey, did you see a Peter Frampton drop by that show? Yeah, Peter Frampton, I remember that song. So, right? And then you can have them work on a new song, something that they had. Hey man, I always wanted to play this song. You guys remember this song? It puts hair up on my arms. You guys want to learn it for the show? So you have 2 songs that they do. You do a classic rock song, and then you do a new song in the show. Okay, the template's already there. It's called Vinyl. And then Dennis Leary did a show, very similar. Okay? The template is here for this show. For all of my properties, the template has long been. It goes all the way back to the Monkees. All right. But we're here celebrating Napoleon's birthday. I'll probably go another 10 minutes. Now, don't forget, we're at the point in the story where they're doing a show. And Max is making the money. Why? Because he's the son of a gangster. And it turns out you're going to see his brothers and sisters look like the mother. Isn't that the funny part? But Max is the only kid. He's the bastard son. He looks like the dad. You see this? They're all Fredos. They can't become. You like that? They're all the Fredo. He is the Michael. Max is the Michael of the family. But nobody can wrap their mind around because all the siblings, they run restaurants, right? They went legit because their father, Dino, is an old gangster. And everybody goes, oh yeah, I knew your dad. I knew your dad. Look at guys like Michael Franchise. Look at guys like Sammy the Bull. They did all this stuff. They've moved on. Those days are over. But what's happening? Max is kind of bringing it back. And they're like, whoa, dude, you're kind of overstepping your boundaries here, pal. You can't be bootlegging electricity. And Max, he steps up. He's got a wad of cash like this. What is he doing at the show? He's selling weed. He booked the hall. I mean, that's his dad's building. There's no electricity. He bootlegged the electricity. He got the bands set up. The kids did mostly everything. He made all the money off the beer, the kegs of beer, and he made the money off the door. Why? Because the bands are trying to promote themselves. I've been in situations like this. We never got paid for any shows, and that's why I put it in one of my songs. We just got paid, but it's basically it's not really about getting paid as a band. It's about you just got your paycheck and so you blow it. That's kind of what it was about. It's called We Don't Like This. I don't know if it's in my playlist or not. I got a lot of songs by the Grievance Committee, and shame on those people who like to run game, because the game is over. The game is over. These people are all connected to Fed rats. That's what they are. Everyone is a Fed rat. Okay? So what happens is there's a 10-year stretch here with Lionel and Linoleum Blownapart. And that starts the trajectory of his band. Sorry, I was going like this. Right? That starts the trajectory of the band. Now, guys, I'm trying to talk to the camera because there's people over here, and I don't want my conversation to go You know, there's a bunch of nice ladies, and they're here babysitting and stuff like that. I try to be as respectful as possible. Unfortunately, I am my mother's son. I was always a gentleman, and I regret being a gentleman to very specific people. You can see I'm not mad at the world. I don't care. But what happened to me down in Florida, it makes you want to die. You want to die. However, and I didn't. And I survive it. And I come back up, and I bust my drummer putting behavioral malware on my computer, ruined a $2,000 computer. And I said, okay, man, okay. And then all of a sudden, the black street gangs come in. Once that didn't go through, then they release this video. Once I figure out what it is, it's from 2002. I got you. I got you. I got you all working together. On behalf of little old May. Oh yeah. All this kind of rich stuff goes into the property. I don't go around throwing my weight around. You can see I'm very humble. Like, I'm here to have a good time, darn it. I got this whole entire narrative worked out. So you can kind of see that it's kind of like, but you want this simple narrative. You want the simplicity of it. It's pretty easy going. Yeah, man. They start off doing all these punk rock shows. And then at that show, Lionel meets JoJo. And Roxy, who's Roach, she meets Max. Now, Roxy and Max end up going into business together. So what's going to be the big scuttlebutt, right? She's a 17-year-old girl, very sexy, very sexual. He's a 35-year-old guy. What am I telling the audience? What could be more girl power than that? And I'm not talking about an alleged relationship. I'm talking about the business relationship. Max is out to make money. He's got children. He's got a wife. He still takes care of his mother, and his father's still alive. Maybe his father, just like Sammy the Bull Gravano, has about $10 million hidden somewhere. Hey? Like I said, I dispel a lot of myths on this show. I'm not afraid to talk about it. And let me tell you guys something. If I'm leaving comments and you can't even give me a thumbs up, you can't respond to one of my comments, and I've been watching your show for 5 years, maybe some of us might have beef. Eh? You can't even be a decent person and respond to one of my comments. I got these people, and I'm going to start calling them out right here on this show. This is the Grievance Gordy Show. I always have a grievance. Except for today. It's Napoleon's birthday. Happy birthday, Napoleon. Thank you. Thank you, Napoleon. I talk about happy accidents. I'm not saying that the day the music died with the Big Bopper, Richie Valens, and one of the Crickets, Buddy Holly, I'm not saying that that was by the deep state, but how do you know? And I'm going to leave you guys with this. This is a good one. Now, don't forget, Grapefruit Simmons. Grapefruit Simmons is a guy named Greg Fitzsimmons. When I called his podcast, because he had ties to Stern, I was going to bring up something. I can't remember what I was going to bring up. He called me a name. He called me an MFer. How do you know me, pal? Do you know me? Oh, that means you know me then, right? You called me an MFer? Why? Ooh, there must have been a little scuttlebutt. I've never seen this guy before in my life, never met him. Well, guess what? He's on the Whitney Cummings show. And what do they pull out? What do they pull out of the hat? Oh, Whitney Cummings goes, can you imagine they put a teacher on the space shuttle, and then everybody in all schools roll in the TV, and then it blows up? It's called trauma-based mind control. Wow, what a difference a decade makes. Maybe some of these snooty, holier than thou, and I'm not going to get into who's a lib and who's on the left and who's on the right. These people are so confused, they don't know what they are. They're like Joe Scarborough. All of a sudden, they're starting to get it now, right? This is aeons wide open. Okay? Or is it aeons wide shut? Is this new aeon going to be some dystopic nightmare? Can this, through orthogonality, cause you to catch a cold? Or to break down base pairs in your chromosomes? Right? Now all of a sudden, we got Grapefruit Simmons. This guy's basically a whack packer. He's like, dude, Tom Segura is actually more talented than this guy. He's so schmarmy. He name called me. I never met the guy in my life. But yet here he is in 2023 talking about things that guys like me and people on the Joe Rogan show were talking about in 2013. There's a teacher on a space shuttle. You roll the TV in the classroom and then it explodes. It's called trauma-based mind control. Okay? And I listen, it doesn't matter what side of the aisle you're on. Anyone can have a conversation. I'm here to have a conversation about Linoleum Blownapart. That's what I'm pitching. I'm pitching it all day today. This is Napoleon's birthday. I'm going to do as many episodes as I can. Sorry, I don't know if it's windy or not. I apologize if the quality is bad. I'm getting ready to start doing StreamYards. Okay? And that's how I'm going to do. I'm going to do streams. I'm going to be pulling up pictures of people. I'm going to be talking about actual people. People like Jay Dyer. People like DeFango. People who I've been listening to for years who don't have any modicum of interest in, I don't know, people who are promoting them. Lift the veil. All they can do is LARP people. I'm telling you, people on the right are using the same tactics as the people on the left. It's all passive aggressive. It's all LARPing. Come on, man. I'm here to tell you everything. I'm here to work in West Hollywood or anywhere else. I don't care where this thing is made. We can make it anywhere. This is the best idea for a show, and I'm pitching it today, all day. Napoleon's birthday. Thank you very much for watching this portion of the show. I appreciate it more than you'll ever know.